Welcome, everyone. My name is Susan Patterson. I'm the director of Through God's Grace Ministry, which provides the platform for engaging men in the fight against human trafficking series. Our topic today, the difference an aware father makes in the prevention of sex trafficking, has two world-class speakers. Patrick Erlandson is the most requested speaker on fatherhood and human trafficking in Southern California. Alan Smith is the author of the book Prized Possession, A Father's Journey in Raising His Daughter. He's also the director of Saving Innocence, who works with children who have been sex trafficked. Our commentator, Pastor Dr. Gregory Williams, is an expert on trauma and will talk about how a father can deal with his own trauma once he finds out his child has been trafficked. Our website, throughgodsgrace.com, offers many resources like books, educational events, work groups, and videos. Please do support our work by subscribing to this channel and liking and sharing this video. Here's our event.
Well, my name is Patrick Erlandson, and I am with Alan Smith this morning, and we're kicking off this work group, which is part of the Engaging Men in the Fight Against Human Trafficking series. We meet 3 times a year, and this is hosted through God's Grace Ministry, which has been so faithful in putting together these kind of meetings, and Susan has recognized a long time ago the significance of having men engage in this fight against human trafficking. That we are not going to really move the needle on this until men get really engaged, inspired, and feel that this is part of their work in life. Well, thank you, each and every one of you, for being here. This is really a very special time, because I think there's an awful lot of men who are learning about human trafficking that are just kind of getting their feet wet, and there's so much for us to learn and so much for us to know in how we can become preventative of this. I think for myself, I first founded FatherCon after about 8 years of working on the prevention of human trafficking through the Long Beach Human Trafficking Task Force, and it was being introduced to survivors and meeting people who had engaged in human trafficking one form or another, and also just through looking at pornography and how influential pornography was now in shaping how young people, and even us as adults, how we were viewing ourselves, how we thought about ourselves, how we were understanding ourselves, and even like how we were identifying was now being shaped by the massive content that was coming over the internet, kind of a sexual nature, and then being produced by the commercialization of sex. And so it was through these conversations that I founded FatherCon, with the intention of really targeting fathers specifically. It's not a men's organization, because father implies there's a mother, and we have to educate mothers also about the significance of fathers, that they can't just go off on their husband because he's not a good husband, and then derail their children by undermining the person that the children need in their life, which is their father. That role is specific and critical and necessary for children's full development, character development, from infancy on. This is not a, like some people were saying that fathers are only important later on in life, when children start growing up, then the father is maybe more necessary. But all the data now shows that from conception, if the father's engaged, taking care of his wife through conception, the children are healthier, the children are much more prepared for life. And then if the father plays with children, engages with them, how much better off they are for the rest of their lives, the impact that has. And too many men have bought into the con, which is the con of FatherCon, is that initial lie that we don't really matter that much, that we can check out, we can skirt the outside of responsibility and still be okay, because the mother's the one who's really important in taking care of kids. And we really have to change that awareness among fathers. So I found there were 3 areas that I saw where fathers intersect with human trafficking specifically. And one is in their own behavior. You have increasing numbers of fathers who are engaging in watching pornography. It is available 24/7. It's on every smartphone. It's wherever you turn and look. It's in Carl's Jr. commercials. It's like the sexualization of young people and this driving you and grooming of men to feel entitled to sexual gratification is all around us all the time. And so I found so many men are being lured into, drawn into kind of, especially the realm of pornography, which then leads to sexual behavior. I visited Bangkok in 2016, and the number of Western men that were coming to Thailand and Cambodia and other countries to have experiences of having sex with 12-year-old boys was extreme and increasing, because these were not gay men necessarily. They were men who were watching porn and wanting a different kind of experience. So their whole appetite was being now shaped by an industry that wanted to get their hooks into them. And that led to so many fathers leading these kind of vapid, empty lives where their children don't really know them. They've distanced themselves because their behavior has now become a wall between them and their spouse, and their children. And so we have this rise in suicide of men. The other two areas where fathers intersect is in how they're raising their daughters. If we raise daughters who really feel that they're worthy of being loved, and this is the power that a father has, the daughter feels that she's worthy of being loved by how the father pays attention to her and how much he engages with her and how much he listens to her. And that this is creating a gap. If that's not there, then traffickers know exactly where to step in and what to say, how to appeal to a young girl who's not being listened to, is not being valued, not being given her sense of worth by her father. And and the other is in how fathers are impacting their sons, that sons are looking at how they should treat women, how they should feel about themselves, what they're entitled to, what they should expect in life. All of those things are being shaped in very large part by observing their father. You know, children learn from observation and repetition and imitation. And so as fathers, if we really understand that our children are assigning meaning to how everything that we say and do. There's a quote by Dr. Meg Meeker that I really love in one of her books on fathers. And it's that nothing that you say or do is neutral. And I think that's so powerful if we really get that. Nothing that we say or do is neutral to a child, which also means nothing that we don't say and we don't do is also neutral to a child. They're assigning meaning. They're assigning meaning to how we interact with them, what we say, what we do, how we treat them. And so this is my whole heart and passion now is like, how do we elevate fathers to understand the significant role that they play? It's a God-given role, and without it, when we check out, we leave a horrible emptiness in its wake that's now being filled by the hundreds of thousands of predators that are online at any given moment of the night or day looking for children. And with that, I will hand it over to Alan.
Well, good morning, everybody. Susan asked Patrick and I to kind of co-lead this little conversation. And just so you know, there's going to be some time at the end when we're done for discussion and Q&A and any of that kind of thing. And you all have probably some great things to add to the conversation. A little bit of an introduction. My name is Alan Smith. I'm the executive director of an anti-human trafficking agency called Saving Innocence. You can find us at savinginnocence.org if you want to find out a little bit more about who we are and what we do. We're based in Los Angeles, and for 12 years, we have been focused on the recovery and the restoration of child victims of sex trafficking, which is actually worse than it even sounds, the things that we encounter on a regular daily basis. In this last year, we've expanded that to all forms of trafficking, including a lot of international work that we're doing based in Los Angeles. So I have the opportunity to look behind the curtain, if you will, and have interacted with numerous survivors, heard firsthand accounts from numerous survivors. And I'm here to back up everything Patrick just said and anything you probably already suspect, that the role of the father, the role of a man in our community and a father in the home or a father figure, men in general, is absolutely critical. It's at ground zero for what causes the vulnerability and the availability of vulnerable youth, kids, children, and adults. And so by just way of a little visual aid here, I'm going to share my screen. I have a 60-second video. It's just one 60-second video. You've all seen versions of this on National Geographic and other things. just watch it, have some observations, and then we're going to come back. We're going to talk about what we just watched. Let's see if this works. Hold on a minute. Okay, you see that video?
Yep.
This is the Serengeti, as most of us know it. A place of plenty. Lush grasses. Huge herds. Lots of prey. A perfect place for a predator.
Okay, observations. What do we notice in that little 60-second National Geographic video? Any observations? What was happening there? Well, I'll just go ahead and fill it in because it's a little awkward on Zoom sometimes to have Q&A. We can talk about it later. But what stood out to me is the title of the whole clip was Predators. And what we have heard over and over and over again from survivors of trafficking is that they have somehow escaped the predatory behavior of traffickers. They are predators. That what's important for us as men and as dads to know, a number of you mentioned you have young children or some age children, you certainly have influence over the people that are in your scope. And Patrick mentioned this, hundreds of thousands of predators. He used that word already. The FBI has told us, this is pre-pandemic, so the number's a lot bigger now, I suspect, but the FBI told us that there's as many as 900,000 predators online at any given moment. 900,000. Now, then the pandemic happened and everybody was online and social media and chat rooms and video games and all those things more than ever. So I'm sure that number is at least doubled and there's no way to really know. But as we see from that video and what we already know about a predator, you know, that lion in the jungle, he's got a strategy to it. There's a purpose to it. There's an instinct to it. He's sort of hiding down in the tall grass. He's downwind. He's trying to be undetected. And then do you notice what happened? The very first scene in that video, it shows that lion chasing an animal. Who's he chasing? Is that lion chasing and attacking the big, strong, confident, and aware animal that was leading the herd or somewhere in the middle of the herd? No, that predator, that lion, sees the one that isn't strong, isn't confident, isn't aware, who's been separated from the pack in some way, shape, or form. And he jumps on that one and has his lunch and devours that one. So am I trying to over dramatize this or scare people or anything like that? No, I'm not. I don't think it's overstating it at all, that there are 1 million plus predators in human form out there surfing the internet. They're hanging around the malls and the schools. There's a lot of it online, social media, masquerading as something else with a strategy to it. There's tactics. They're not just like willy-nilly going around trying to capture somebody. It's not like that. There's a process that these predators are going through. They're trying to lure in those young ones that are not strong, confident, and aware. They're weak, timid, and oblivious. So if I could offer tool number one in the toolbox, raise your children to be strong, confident, and aware. Influence the children in your lives, whether they're nieces or nephews, whether they're neighbors. But for sure, it starts with your own kids. Our friend here said he has a 6-year-old. Eddie, I think you said that. Raise that little girl to be strong, confident, and aware. And her vulnerability will exponentially decrease to predators out there with age-appropriate definitions, age-appropriate conversation to whatever age your child is. They have to be made aware of the dangers. Think about if you were sitting on the side of a riverbank and you saw your child going by in an inner tube and they're waving and you're waving back, but all the while, you know, Niagara Falls is around the corner. What would you do? You would shake your hands, you'd jump in, you would do anything you could to warn your child, or anyone, hopefully, that there was danger around the corner. So what I see from my seat in this place, in this world, the place where God has me, is that hundreds of thousands, up to millions of humans, of children in this country are being stalked and preyed upon. That's a fact. And we don't want that to happen to anybody. But in terms of the title of this workshop, it has to do with dads and human trafficking. So start in your own home. Strong, confident, aware kids will go a long way. I have a few quotes that I want to read to you. These are from survivors of trafficking. Some of you may know there's an all-star named Jessica Midkiff. Jessica and I collaborated on a book called Men Fight for Me, and I'm going to put if you go to fightforme.net, there's a bunch of resources. I'm going to talk about a couple of resources here through this meeting that we're having, and there's a resources tab on fightforme.net where you can there's a number of books and other resources I'm going to mention. In the book, she's a survivor of 10 years of trafficking and exploitation, and a colleague of mine at Saving Innocence. Started for her when she was 11 years old, her trafficking part of her journey, and went for 10 years. She says this: my father left when I was a baby. From the very beginning, I had a feeling of not being wanted and the feeling of being inadequate. I grew up with a constant and profound sense of rejection that led me down the path of searching for approval and acceptance from men, no matter who they were or what they did. A strong sense of rejection because her father left. She went on to say, a typical trafficker also plays a father figure. She had talked about the boyfriend role that a lot of traffickers assume, but she also said a typical trafficker assumes a father figure. Since most of the girls who are being trafficked are lacking a healthy and present biological father, this plays to their advantage. Rebecca Bender is a nationally known survivor, leader, trainer extraordinaire, author, all those things. She's also in that book I mentioned. She said, my parents had a messy divorce and I felt unwanted, alone, and unimportant. And that created the gap for the predator, for the trafficker to step into. She felt alone, unwanted, and unimportant. Another quote from Rachel Thomas, and she has an amazing resource out there that I want to draw your attention to on fightforme.net/resources, the resources tab. She created an amazing tool. I shout it out every chance I get. If you're a dad looking to empower your children to be strong, confident, and aware, go to the coolauntseries.com, and there's a link right on the resources tab of fightforme.net. Buy it. I don't get anything. There's no partnership here. I don't get a kickback. She asked me to go through it early on, and I wrote a review. It's phenomenally done. She's a cool aunt. Sometimes it's difficult for parents to talk about these sensitive issues with their kids, and maybe just need an expert. She's a trafficking survivor herself. Matter of fact, the book Fight for Men, Fight for Me, the Fight for Me part is something I heard her say on a stage. I needed someone to fight for me. She said this. She said, girls who come from broken homes are told, you don't have a daddy. I'm the only man who's ever going to look out for you, so you better stick with me. It's all about manipulation and breaking down a girl's self-esteem so they do what the pimp tells them to do. So you might, in your mind, have gone to the space, my kid isn't coming from a broken home. I am a dad, I am there. And I'm sure that's true for all of you and most of the men you know. Well, that's great. It has decreased your children's vulnerability by you being a good man, being engaged, being present. But it's not on or off. It's not binary here. There's many shades of gray. You can have a father or a father figure who's there, but they're distracted. The priorities are elsewhere. They're trying to put food on the table. They've got some buddies they play golf with. None of those things are bad. Playing golf with your buddies and having food on the table is not a bad thing. But as a dad gets distracted, he might turn it over and think, she's a certain age. I'm going to let my wife kind of take it from here, if you will. I'm here. My urgent message is, no, dads, we need your presence more than ever. Your children need it more than ever, not less. They need it more. an engaged dad shows up and does life with their kids. And if the bar is pretty low, if we can just show up and be there emotionally and physically, it's going to reduce your child's vulnerability quite a bit. Well, what if I'm super busy? I can't be there all the time. Okay, I get it. But the things that are discretionary, look at those things. Cut some of those things out while you're raising your kids and be there for your kids. Coach a team. Watch their show, not your show. Watch their show with them on the couch. Be present. Ask questions. Be involved, especially when they're younger. A 6-year-old, our friend here with a 6-year-old, that's a perfect age. Right now, you're an all-star. You're a superhero. She has nothing else on her calendar. You can take her places. You can run errands with her. You can put her on your shoulders. Like, you are Superman. Great. Keep that. Lean into that. Because in about 10 years from now, if not sooner, life's going to get really complicated for her and confusing for her. And she's going to need you to interpret life for her and put some boundaries, some healthy boundaries around her. So a dad's mandate also is to raise good, strong men. Most of the young victims are little girls. At Saving Innocence, it's about 95-5. 95% of the kids we've taken care of, almost 2,000 of them have been little girls. Little boys are definitely susceptible, but for whatever reason, it's mostly little girls. Now, if we want to be strategic about this crime, if we want to truly end human trafficking, which we do, we want to protect our own kids and those kids that are in our sphere, for sure. But if we want to see it go away, a dad's mandate, a man's mandate, whether you're a dad or not, is to help raise good, strong, young men, because those are the future predators mostly. Those are the future buyers mostly. By far, the biggest part of the problem of human trafficking is men. So we all have an incredibly important role. We have to step in and raise a good, strong man. Those of you who have sons or you have friends that have sons, maybe the most important thing you could do for this world is to raise good, strong men. Human trafficking is plain old capitalism. It's an economically driven crime. There's product, there's supply and demand, there's supply chain. Pick all the terms you've ever heard in any kind of an economics class or business class, they all apply here. They're buying and selling a product. Now, if we can raise good, strong men, the market shrinks, if not goes away. So I bet everybody's got a smartphone. I got the little Apple phone. I bet most of you do and have some kind of a phone. But what happens if everybody, for whatever reason, quit buying the Apple phone? Is Apple going to keep making phones? No, because they're trying to make a profit. If literally no one bought an Apple phone again, they would quit making the Apple phone. The product would cease to exist. So in very crass business terms, which is exactly what this is, a crass business, if the product ceases to exist, the buyers will go away. There's nothing to buy. The product will cease to exist if there's no more buyers. And we as men, as father figures, as leaders in your family, leaders in your community, have a lot to say of whether or not the next generation of buyers ever happens. We need dads more than ever. We need men more than ever. And with that, I'm going to throw it to Patrick. He has some more thoughts.
How do you step in after that? Yeah, a lot of things kind of really came up with Alan's talking there. One thing that really has been a part of my life, and especially in what I observed with my parents, was, yeah, fathers get busy, and we have this responsibility for, taking care of and providing for our families. But the collaboration between a husband and wife is so critically important, and that the wife is on the same page with her husband, that she's testifying to the father. That if there's a gap, but in living in Japan, I noticed so many families where the father's busy taking care of work, and the kids don't know the dad doesn't know the kids, and this resentment grows, and the gap between the father and the kids becomes unbridgeable. And in that kind of situation where the father does have to work 2 jobs or 3 jobs, he's working really hard and he can't always be there, then it's really important that the wife understands that she has to be testifying to her husband. There's such power in that. Like if the wife steps in and is talking about how great the dad is, how much she loves her husband, we've got to educate both sides, the male and the female side, for the sake of our children. of the role of the father, how important that father is. The other thing is I wanted to talk a little bit about the sense of entitlement, because I think we have a culture that's just breeding a sense of entitlement. It's coming from politicians. It comes even within the church. It's coming from advertising. It's everywhere, that you are entitled to this amazing life, and you are entitled to all these wonderful things, and to have a comfortable, smooth sailing existence, entitled to all the free healthcare and free education and free everything, the hair that doesn't thin and fall out. You are entitled to this amazing existence just because you're born. And to me, that's the feeding ground for all of this, all of these problems that arise, and especially seen in human trafficking. But what happens with a sense of entitlement is, I am supposed to have something and I don't have it. Therefore, someone's to blame for me not having it. So again, you have this link to this whole victimization, this feeling that I'm a victim here. I don't have the fancy car. I don't have the perfect hair color. I don't have the super fast internet. And I don't have a wife who does everything I want in bed. And so, especially with the influence of pornography, it's shaping what your expectation is. I should be having this amazing kind of sex life, because look at these girls in porn. They're enjoying every minute of everything that this guy does to them. And so you're constantly being fed this sense of entitlement. So then you start noticing what I don't have. So that begins to prevail. What I don't have becomes the dominant thing in my mind, not what I do have. So it kills our sense of gratitude for what we do have, which is our link to God. I think that one of the most profound links that we have to God is that we have a sense of gratitude for this amazing universe and world that we've been given, that we are now being assigned as co-creators of. We impact this world, we impact our lives, we impact generations, and what the choices that we make in our life. We have this amazing power to co-create with God. And this sense of entitlement completely derails that sense of gratitude to where what dominates is what I'm entitled to and what I don't have. And by God, I'm going to go get it. And so then you justify why it's okay. So it's okay for me to spend 3 hours looking at porn. It's okay for me to go, have 30 minutes in the backseat with a hooker, because I'm supposed to have this amazing sex life. I'm entitled to it. I'm a man, I'm a guy. And this is the messaging that's all around us. We're constantly being groomed to feel entitled to a life that we don't have, or to especially a sexual experience that we don't have. And this is like, I took this course at Compton College, a speech class. I don't know, it was about 6 years ago. And it was just a really great opportunity to engage with students, like students who are now like around 18, 19, 20, in a predominantly Black neighborhood. And so it was just a wonderful experience of interacting with these young people. And one girl told me afterwards, I gave a talk about human trafficking, of course. And she started talking about pornography and how, she and her husband started watching porn together to spice up their sex life. And very quickly, if you know anything about the pornography of the internet today, it goes more and more deeply into humiliation and violence, towards women, and towards whoever's being objectified. And so very quickly, within a year, she said her husband wanted to do things to her that were extremely painful, or things that she absolutely didn't want to do. And it led to their divorce. So now you have 2 children growing up without a dad, and a mother who has resentment towards, her husband checking out on them. But it started from this. You're feeding a sense of entitlement to what we should have. And to me, that's kind of, we really have to be consciously, intentionally aware of the messaging that we're giving to our children. If we're feeding this kind of sense of entitlement to something, it's very hard to draw the line, or to limit that, or to border it in some way. Once you start feeding a sense of entitlement that you should be having this wonderful life, and not earning it, not working towards it, not taking responsibility for it, but just expecting to get it, that we're creating all of the conditions that enable exploiters and the exploited to be raised up and grow within our own homes. One thing that's different, I think we look at, like Alan was saying, okay, the capitalistic side of human trafficking, the economic side that drives it. But the thing that I find so insidious within human trafficking is the goal of it is to change your identity, and it's like our identity has to be eternally and deeply linked to God. That's where we should find our identity, that we are made in the image of God. And so there's an intrinsic worth to us that comes from that. And I think the goal of a trafficker is to make this girl change her identity so she believes that that's who she is. That's who she is. It's not what she does, but it's who she is. She is now a hoe. She is now someone to be used, and her worth comes from being able to get money out of men by doing whatever they want to do to her body, and being able to bring that back to her trafficker, and then whatever reward she gets from that. But it's changing identity, and it's changing the identity of men. And I think this is where we have to be really careful as men, that our identity is not being changed, and how we see ourselves, that we are no longer that responsible person for the upbringing of children, and so that they do become valuable and feel worthy of being loved, and that they are loved, that they are accepted. But instead, if our identity changes, then we pass that down to our children. So to be very, very careful about how we identify ourselves, what we feel, who is the who am I, that's really critical. And then one more thing I wanted to spin off of what Alan said is the necessity for father figures. If you are not a father, or if you're a really good father, we have 19 million children in America today that are growing up without a dad. 19 million children that are now feeling a lack of something that they critically need in their lives. And if there isn't a father figure, if there isn't someone who steps in and models some healthy male behavior, those young people are going to be shifted in some way. They are not going to develop the way that they could, because they're lacking that positive figure. So we need to also recognize, whether we're single, divorced, whether we're a father who's got 3 kids or 6 kids, there is such a need around us, and we need to start stepping into those roles wherever we can. Like when you have an impact on the men and on the children around you, and we have to really start to cherish that we have that responsibility and that influence, and start to use it to the full. Yeah, I think divorce is really big. I mean, the number of survivors who have talked about divorce being the trigger that enabled them to be trafficked is really huge. And so we have to, if you have a brother or sister who's divorced, then we have to kind of also lean into that couple and be kind of a support for them, and also keep them aware, keep that divorced father aware that he still has an impact on his kids, and to not give up, not check out. In the course of doing FatherCon, I got to be friends with Laura King, Rodney King's daughter, and the reason I had her stand up and speak once at FatherCon a number of years ago, but just I was so moved by her story, because Rodney King, the image that most of us have is, drugs, police brutality, and riots, and that's pretty much as far as our understanding of Rodney King goes. But when she shared with me about him, like, she has this real sense of social responsibility, like how to help Black African American men, like how to help them stay connected to their kids and in their families. And she said that came from her father. He was there for her every event at school. Rodney was there for his daughter, and even for her kid, her friends. If they didn't have fathers, he would be buying them notebooks, and he would be kind of a father figure for her friends. He was fighting his demons. He had serious issues with drugs and his problems, but he never lost sight of his responsibility as a father. And that translated into a daughter who now has this burning passion to help her community and help others. So I just want to say, we have too many fathers who check out. They struggle with porn, they struggle with something, and then that becomes an excuse for them then to remove themselves from their children or from their families, and that's a breeding ground for all of these problems.
That's great, Patrick. Just to make note, in the chat, I put fightforme.net/resources. The Cool Aunt series that I mentioned, I recommend everybody buy it and go through it with your kids. And there's some other books and other things that are available there. You can check it out. Patrick said a couple things there I wanted to bounce off before we wrap this portion of it up and talk about some practical tools. He mentioned the need for fathers to step into fatherless children. So if you're in LA or someone in LA, go to savinginnocence.org. There's a foster tab up above. And we started a foster family agency within Saving Innocence specifically for kids who have been trafficked, who need a home and a safe, healthy, positive home to go into. So we're looking for foster parents. So check that out. We'd love to talk to you or anyone you know that might be in LA for that purpose. If we're talking to us dads or not dads, father figures, soon to be dads, future fathers, all that. It takes a healthy man to raise a healthy man. So, just imagine yourself, you're on an airplane somewhere and it emergency lands in the middle of the forest somewhere, the middle of the jungle somewhere. Nobody dies, it's not a big tragedy, but somehow if you've landed someplace, you ran out of gas and you're lost. And everyone on the plane is there and everyone's wondering, what do we do? What do we do? They're confused. They don't know which way to go. And then somebody in a loud voice says, wait a minute, I have a vacation home a half a mile from here. I know exactly where we are. Follow me. Everyone's going to follow that person and they're going to be saved. The moral of the story is he's been there before. He knows what's happening. He knows the trail. He knows the path. He knows, don't go over there. There's a cliff. Don't go over there. There's a habitat of bears and they're hungry this time of the year. We're going to follow me. I know where I'm going. So, here's the challenge to us dads and us men and the dads and men that you mix with. If the end goal is to raise healthy men to be in this space, it's going to be really hard to do it unless we are healthy men. And there's certainly degrees of health and everybody has something they're thinking about and working on. And so that's great. But the most important thing that we can do is look in the mirror and ask ourselves, is my life syncing up with a non-exploitive culture that I want my sons and daughters to grow up in? If you peeled it back, looked in the shadows, if you looked at me when no one else was looking, you turned on the light, whatever metaphor you want to use, does my life line up with the very things I want for my daughter or my young son as he's growing up? Patrick, several times, mentioned pornography as a real danger and a real trap for so many men and women, more men than women, it seems. In this last year or so, I've learned a couple things. By the way, another resource, it's not linked anywhere, but look up Beyond Fantasy. I think it's going to be a 3-part documentary series on pornography. Benji Nola is the director, producer. He's the founder, and he runs an organization, ministry called Exodus Cry. You can find them on social media and everywhere else. And they're really in the space of creating some really powerful, hard-hitting documentaries uncovering these important issues. And he spent a couple years interviewing everybody in the pornography industry, all the senior creators and directors and producers, many of the mostly women, but actors that are in the porn films. And he's putting out these documentaries now to uncover it all. He said something very chilling to me, that he determined with his research over years and years, talking to everybody, that most of the people you see on screen in pornography are there somehow in some way against their will. They're being coerced in some way, manipulated in some way. And we know from the work that I do with Saving Innocence, some of them are being actually trafficked into that movie set, meaning they have no choice. They have to go where their trafficker tells them to go. And so we've had trafficking survivors been forced to show up in a bedroom, in a motel room, in some kind of a studio. Camera turns on, she's raped all night long, and now it's on a porn site. So there are trafficking victims actually being trafficked into pornography. And then there are other people that are just coerced, manipulated in some way to be there against their will. And there certainly is a percentage that would say they're doing it consensually. This is how I want to do this, and this is how I make my money. The problem is, among others, is that there's no way of knowing. If you're looking at pornography, there's no little button or banner or disclaimer that says who is there consensually and who is there non-consensually. And we know that most of them are there non-consensually. So let's just take that one step further. As men, I'm talking to men, as dads, are we going to somehow receive some type of gratification by watching non-consensual sex, better known as rape? Most of the pornography you see, we're seeing documented rape happening. Guys, we have to be better than that. This is the world that we are creating for our sons and daughters. Probably the men on this call is probably not as big a struggle. I wouldn't put it past anybody though. But I bet you know a bunch of men where that's a struggle. At least let's just call it what it is. We're monetizing rape, and we are somehow enjoying it as the male species. That's a pill that's hard to swallow.
I'm going to say something on that, Alan. Just for men, we have this ability to justify, like, I didn't make this, it's already out there, so therefore I'm not responsible for anything bad that's happened there. I'm just observing and watching. And I think, I started going through all of, Pornhub is kind of the major producer of porn in the world. At least now they're having their struggles, thankfully. But they would record every stroke. I mean, every time you clicked on something and how long you watched, they were observing all of that. And that played into their monetizing, the production of porn. So it's like it's so easy for men to justify why it's like, I'm not doing any, there's no harm, no foul, no victim here. I'm just tuning in and looking at something that's already been made. The harm's already been done. So it's okay for me just to kind of watch or look. But actually, every time you click, that message is going to the industry that's then saying, okay, we need more of this, we need more of that. So in some way, you're actually feeding into the industry, then requiring more and more content, which requires more and more people being victimized. So I just want to throw that in, not to shame or create kind of too strong a sense of blame, because I think we're also being groomed to kind of feel to be sucked into this. So we have to kind of recognize that what the porn industry does is it takes the God-given gift of curiosity and it completely exploits it and turns it into something ugly and destructive. God blessed us with a sense of curiosity about life and the world, and this universe is still expanding and growing. There is so much for all of us to be stimulated by and enjoy and love in this universe. But pornography takes that part of our brain, completely hijacks it and pulls it into the gutter, and makes it very, very hard for people to get free. And we have a lot of young people that are starting to watch porn at the age of 8, 9, 10. And I was on a panel where we were talking about, trends in porn, and the huge increase in incest porn. That's the quantity of content that's now being created around the most taboo issues of sexuality in our society and culture. But so much around incest. And so what we've seen as a consequence of that is we now have little boys sexually molesting their little sister because they're watching porn. And in porn, the little girl she just loves being molested by her father or by her brother, by her uncle. And so you have a child now shaping his view of the world and normalizing looking at these intimate relationships that should be the safest, should be the most wholesome formative relationships in a child's life. And now they're being sexualized by this industry. And it's like with powerful intent, and consequences.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. And this goes back to what I said earlier. We have to sync our life up with the non-exploited culture that we want to leave for our kids. And by us or guys we know participating in and monetizing rape, aka pornography, that is not syncing our life up with the non-exploited culture. We're monetizing it, and that's just unacceptable for us as men to be part of that. We want to transition here for the last little chunk of time before we open it up into practical tools. Let's get practical. There's big picture stuff. Okay, we're going to stop buying porn. That seems like a really big job. We need a lot of people to do it. Yes, good. We'll start at home, look in the mirror, start with you, and then we'll go outward. If the business has to go away, we need buyers to not be buyers anymore. So we got to raise strong, confident kids. That's the long game. Okay, all right. Let's some practical tools. I'm sure. I guess I'm not sure, but I'm guessing all of you saw the recent Top Gun movie that came out this last year. Seemed like everybody saw it pretty much. If you didn't, I'll bet some of you saw the first Top Gun movie. In fact, it just came on. I just watched the last 20 minutes of it just the other day. It was on some channel. I was like, oh, all right, let me check this out. And so the very first Top Gun movie, Maverick, Tom Cruise, as his friend died, Goose, as you know. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. And is in the big battle scene at the end. And he's disengaged and he's flying away and everyone's mad at him because his friends are over in the battle. And there's a scene of him looking at Goose's dog tags, talk to me, Goose, talk to me, Goose. And he's like all distracted with his friend that died. All the while, there's an incredible battle not far away. You could see it. He was disengaged and everyone's yelling at him. And his boss on the ship is yelling at him. You remember? Engage, Maverick, engage. The other pilots, engage, Maverick. And finally, he figures it out. He steers his ship back over, his plane back over, blows up the bad guys. And the day is won. And you remember what happened? He flew back to the aircraft carrier they landed. And what's happening? Everybody on the ship is out there cheering and screaming. There's a whole chorus of men cheering him on because he engaged in the battle and he won that battle. And they put him up on their shoulders and everybody's celebrating. And it was a great end of the movie. So my message to men, engage. Men, engage. If I could reach into the computer and to your networks and you engage with your kids. It's been said that nothing important happens apart from relationships. And sometimes as men, as dads, we misprioritize and we're trying to make money to feed our family. Good. We're trying to do some other things. Good. They're not all bad necessarily. Some may be hurtful, but probably not most of them. But somewhere in the middle, we may have been missing that we need to engage with our kids. What does that mean? Just provide a house? No, it's more than that. It's building that relationship with your child. Well, I'm the father, father, son, father, daughter. Great. Now build that relationship. It's like putting money in the bank, especially if your kids are young, like my man here with the 6-year-old. Like engage at a young age. Don't put the TV on always as a babysitter. Sometimes it's helpful to kind of give them something to do while you're working on something. But go and sit next to them. We live in the age now where you can press pause on your TV. You literally press pause. You could talk about something. So I remember my kids were, junior high and high school. Some TV commercial will come on. I know what they're selling. They're selling sex. It's some girl barely dressed with a hamburger. They think they're selling It's this guy, sex described as hamburgers. I can hit pause. Hey, what do you think they're selling? What do you think how are they trying to get our attention with that commercial? Again, age appropriate communication and all that. Well, look at what that girl's wearing. What are they trying to do here? You can have a conversation. You can process life as it's coming in real time. Then you just hit play again and continue on with the show. That's a practical tool, engage. I want to give you one more little hint. I stumbled onto something. My daughter was 5 years old. I said, hey, we're going to start a father-daughter getaway. She said, what's that? I said, well, I'm the father, you're the daughter. We're going to get away. Okay, what does that mean? So we started this thing where once a year, and I would hope you do something with your kids more than once a year, but this was our getaway. We would plan, okay, what are we going to do this year for our father-daughter getaway? And so the first one, we lived in Northern California. So I said, you and I, we're going to Disneyland, just you and me. We're going to drive down. The movies that had just come out in that time was Beauty and the Beast and Lion King and all those movies. We had a little mixtape with all the best songs from all those movies. We drove down. It took 3 days off of work. We drove down, listened to the song, played all the songs, went to Disneyland, just her and I, took all the great pictures. To this day, we got these great pictures. Now, she had a little brother and a mom, my wife. It was just her and I, the father-daughter getaway. It was great. It was magical. Then the next year, what do you want to do this year? Well, then it was horseback riding and this, that, and the other, different things. And then she comes to me her senior year in high school. And she says, Dad, this is our last father-daughter getaway. I said, what do you mean? It's not our last. What are you talking about? Well, I'm graduating high school, blah, blah, blah. I said, okay. She said, we got to go big. I said, all right, what's big? She said, let's go to Hawaii. Whoa. And I thought two things immediately. This is going to be expensive. And then the second thing was, there is no way I'm going to say no to my 18-year-old daughter. We're all friends on news on the spring break madness and chaos that's happening. She wants to go to Hawaii with her dad. 100%. Let's do it. We bought plane tickets, got a hotel, went there for 5 or 6 days, did all the tourist things, had some fun, splashed around in the ocean, flew home. Her dream was that she wanted to swim with the dolphins. So what did I do? We got online. Where can you swim with dolphins? I spent, a few $100s for her to get 30 minutes in the pool with some dolphins. We got the pictures we have are incredible. The experience is incredible. That kind of thing happens because I put pennies in the bank when she was 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. And now she's inviting me to go to Hawaii with her. She didn't offer to pay or anything, but she wants to go to Hawaii with me. So men, dads, do you know what your children's dreams are? My daughter's dream was to swim with the dolphins. I made it happen. I feel good about that. How about you? What are your kids' dreams? Find out what they are, help cultivate them, and then make them happen. Be the guy that makes your daughter's dreams come true, because there's plenty of predators and vile people out there that would love to present to them a counterfeit version of you, a small, diminished version of man, of men, of fatherhood, of boyfriendhood. And they're going to try to meet your daughter's needs and her dreams. No. You be the one that meets her dreams. Let you be the standard that she measures all other relationships and all other men by, is you. And that can only happen if you're engaged and you're present. Be there. Communicate. It sounds pretty basic, but most men are a little bit absent and they're not intentionally engaged in that way. See, my man Armand is here. I saw a little clap emoji. Good to see Armand. Armand contributed to this book, Men Fight For Me, as well. He has some unique experiences and shared very openly his perspective. So I'm teasing the book now. Proceeds go to survivors of trafficking. So if you want to pick it up, there's some great tools in there and all the stuff we're talking about. Patrick, give us a couple of practical tools before we open it up.
Well, I think one really critical thing is if you're married, you've got to sit down with your wife and you've got to be on the same page about what you need to be modeling to your kids. So how you treat each other in their presence, how you support each other, how you testify about each other, those things are just really, really critical for children. You know, that they really see that their parents are collaborating and cooperative, and that both of you have the best intention for your children. To me, I think that's one of the most liberating things, and it's one of the most empowering things, is to really, when you really sit down with your spouse and you make this very intentional, like how we're going to raise our children and what they're going to see in us, and what they're going to hear from us as well. I think that the thing that Alan said too, I talked to a friend of mine up in Canada, and he does this thing where he has two calendars, one for his daughter and one for him, and then they coordinate. You know, so I'm going to do this with you on this day. And so he has a weekly things that he does together with her, monthly, quarterly. He's got it just really kind of strategized. And so then she's looking forward to it. She sees it's there on the calendar. We're going to do this together at this time. But there's so many different little tools that you can kind of initiate and bring into your relationship with your children. I do want to spin off a little bit here and talk about FatherCon, just because this was something I think we all recognize a problem. We all see something, and then what do we do about it? And so, in my case, my response was, I'm an English teacher. You know, it's like basically, you know, that's my job. But when I confronted human trafficking, then I couldn't live with myself if I wasn't doing something about it. So I immediately found the closest, you know, human trafficking task force to me. I started going to meetings. Then I took over the prevention side of human trafficking, you know, and I'm not holding this up as something, this is something great that I did or that I was special. But my point is, there's something for each of us to do. And once something like nudges your heart, once something kind of pricks you and you realize, man, something is happening and I don't want this to happen. I do not want this to happen to children. Then we can actually make something happen. So we're about to have our fourth FatherCon, which is a gathering, a conference where we do. I mean, my point was really, I wanted to inform, I wanted to inspire fathers, and I wanted to equip them so that they could really go into battle for the sake of their children and for the sake of the children in our communities and in our world, and to have that kind of impact. And you know, you mentioned Benji Nola. Nola, he's going to be giving a workshop at this FatherCon as well. So he's going to be there doing a presentation. He'll be showing some of the film. Yeah, it is a three-part series. They've done a movie on the buyers, you know, who the buyers are. Amazing work that Exodus Cry has done. So they're going to be at FatherCon. We have workshops on fentanyl. You know, I mean, right now, this is something that's facing so many parents, is the children are getting exposed to fentanyl and dying at incredible rates. We have a woman who's going to be presenting whose son died of fentanyl poisoning. And I'm just an amazing woman who does a presentation on how to protect our kids from that. We have all kinds of, we have John Pulley who's going to come and speak. He's someone who actually became a buyer, and he got arrested in a sting as a buyer of a 15-year-old, and completely turned his life around. And now he really advocates for men to understand that slippery slope. You start here and you end up way down here in hell. And how do we change that? How do we change the narrative of who we're being told that we are as men? Fostering fathers. We have a man who's coming. He's Bob Levy, who's an incredible father who works with foster all, takes care of foster children. We need all of these men are coming together. There's 15 different workshops. If you're in the Southern California area, I really encourage you to come. It's next Saturday. It's February 11th. There's so much content, and it's just a gathering to really get inspired about who we are as fathers, and to really celebrate. We don't get enough, recognition of just the important, significant role that fathers play. And that's what I wanted to address. I really would love to see us elevate the whole significance of fatherhood, so that we recognize what men are doing. There's going to be a portion of this one where guys who have done great things are going to get up and be able to testify and share about something that they did that was really important. I think like Alan, you have all these men who've done these incredible things, but we don't share it with each other. And so this will be an opportunity to learn from other dads, what they've done. One guy, he fought a custody battle, horrible custody battle, to get his daughter away from a toxic mother. And when she started her first period, most guys run in the other direction when the daughter has her first period. And he decided to go all in. And so he set up this red tent in his backyard, and he brought in every significant woman in his daughter's life and brought them all together. And they had this celebration of her, entering this new phase of her life. And there were so many creative men out there. So kind of to come together, share our stories, and really inspire each other so that we can become the best dads possible. So I just want to throw that out there, that there's something that you can do. Really, if you search your heart and find, what's in your toolbox, what is it that you've got that you can bring to this fight? Because we all have something, and we all need it. Everybody is needed in this, to do what we can, influence the people around you. One final, just small thing, Alan keeps talking about that. We got to be the men. We got to step into this role. We got to be trustworthy. And I think, to me, what I've recognized through now 11 years working on this is trust is the most critical thing. We can put all kinds of controls on our devices. We can get bark. We can get all these kind of things to try to curtail our children's access to the internet. But it comes down to the bottom line. The bottom line is, do my kids trust me? Are they going to come to me and tell me when something bothers them? Are they going to tell me when they see something? Because they are going to see something. We're living in a world today where it's no longer kind of an if, but when. And then we have to be there for them at that time, and they have to already have a foundation of trust in us. But that means we have to be trustworthy. And to be a responsible person means you can't just do whatever you want. You have to have self-control and be intentional about our relationships. And so that's just, my call out is, you think about wanting your kids to trust you, that means you have to be someone that they can trust. You're not just going to scold them, take away their phone, but you're going to respond in a way that's going to really elevate them and make them feel, man, I can come and tell my dad anything, and he's there for me.
That's great, Patrick. In a moment here, we're going to invite Pastor Gregory Williams to say a word on trauma and trafficked. He has a unique expertise on that. As just my closing summary point, as I mentioned early in this time, if you walk away from here with nothing else, resolve to raise your sons and your daughters to be strong, confident, and aware. And the vulnerability will shrink exponentially to outside forces, outside predators, outside influences. The internet and the social media stuff is wreaking havoc on young kids. Society in large is wreaking havoc. They're being lied to every single day. The 5,000 media images they take in every day, they're being lied to on what their beauty and their worth is and what their role in this worth is. They're being lied to. So your voice has to be louder than all those lies. And that happens with you engaging, like Maverick did, get in the fight, get in the battle, and figure out a way to raise your kids to be strong, confident, and aware. And again, if you go to fightforme.net, there's a resources tab, and there's other books and other resources I would love to to get in your hands to help you in that process. But Dr. Martin Luther King says our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. That's a profound quote for me, because our lives don't end. It's not like you jumped off a cliff and your life is over immediately. He said, it's interesting imagery to me. Our lives begin to end the day we stay silent about things that matter. Like there's a slow erosion of your soul, of self, of how you view the world, how you view yourself, how you view sex, how you view your kids. There's a slow erosion the day you become silent about things that matter. And from where I'm sitting here, there's nothing that matters more than building strong, confident, and aware kids and putting an end to this dastardly, broken society that would produce trafficking and exploitation. With that, Dr. Gregory Williams, what do you have for us?
I'll tell you what, Alan, that reminds me, every conference that I speak at, about 200 a year or more, I start off with the song Sound of Silence. And because there's a line in there that says, silence like a cancer grows. And that's exactly what you're talking about. Because in my own personal life, I kept that I was being abused every day and even trafficked by my own father up to the age of 17 years old. Every single day of my life that I can remember as a child, I was sexually abused by him. And 2.5, 3 years during that early teenage years, I was trafficked by my dad with his best friends every Monday night for several hours. They would just come into my room like a revolving door, one after another after another. And I was silent about that for over 30 years. And that was what caused the damage to me, even though the sexual abuse caused damage. And that's a whole different discussion on a different day. But the silence of that is what caused the demons inside to lift weights in the basement and come back more powerful, and it ended up affecting every relationship that I had in my life because I never dealt with it. And I think the topic that you're talking about with fatherhood is so important. And the thing that I've been asked to kind of just talk about was what happens if something has already happened to your children and you were on the wall guarding them? How do we handle that? That is such a wild impact. And I protected my kids. And when I told my kids, and I wrote the book, the way I told my kids about my abuse was I sent them a chapter as I was writing the book. Every couple of days, they would get a chapter and go, Dad, what's this all about? Just keep reading the book and you'll understand. And in that, they all came back. All three of my boys came back and said, Dad, now we know why you kept us protected from Grandpa. I would never let them be alone with them. But then I now have to deal with two of my children that went into the United States Army and came out. One is still in the Army, active duty in Seattle, Washington, came out damaged, touched, affected, abused while they were in the United States Army. So I have that guilt of, hey, wait, I protected and put my life on the line to make sure my kids were safe. Then I allowed and was proud for them to go in and swear in to the United States Army. And then while they were in there, got abused. Now, don't tell me that that doesn't get up into your attic and starts kicking some shingles out of this father of going, wait, what did I do wrong? And I still am processing that. But I think some of the things that I've learned from that is I have to stop the negative self-talk to my own inner being. I have to eliminate that. I did everything that I possibly could to keep my kids safe. And then when I entrusted in them at their age of wanting to go out and live their own lives and choosing to protect our country couldn't protect them with the very officers that were in charge of their troops, of their own comrades. And I couldn't do anything about that. So I have to eliminate the negativity in my life in that, or I would literally be sitting in a rubber room talking to myself if I didn't do that. Another thing that I think Alan and Patrick, I want to applaud you. You're champions in this. I got educated today. And from day one, when I came out and told people that, hey, I was abused, all fathers that are listening to this right now need to look at me in the eyes and say, hey, wait, you need to get educated on everything that you can on this. And these two men have brought a new education light to me. And I thank you for that. And I applaud you for that. But that was one of the things that I was determined, that when I found out and discovered that I was trafficked, and it took several years to even understand that I was being trafficked by my own dad, that my own kids got hurt outside of my control when they were left my home in the Army. What can I do? I can get educated. And I started understanding that, and understanding those things that I can control and those things that I can't control. And I think we learned greatly here today that even in your little predator video, what was one of the key tactics? Isolation. Another one was distraction, and letting them understand that, hey, wait, all it takes is one wrong step and they have you. And we have to be vigilant in protecting our kids when they're in our home every single minute of every single day. And take that into account. And then here I am, a pastor. Here I am, a medical professional at Texas Children's Hospital across the street in Baylor College of Medicine. I need to recognize that I have needs too, that I need a group of men like this that I should be accountable to, and be able to lean in and go, hey, Eric, how did you get through that? Hey, Eddie, anything that you can tell me about this own situation? And with my dear friend, Ken Henry, hey, Ken, help me be accountable. And men need to have a place of safety, of where we can talk with each other and not be condemned and not be in fear. And I think that's so important. I know I only got, and then I'd say the last thing that I would do is get involved. I promise you, Father Con, I'm going to get involved, and I'm going to fly to California next time you have one of these things. I want to be part of that. I want to be in the room of being able to suck this energy in and marinate with other men, so it infiltrates every part of me. And then when I walk in front of my church, in front of the people that I'm supposed to be their spiritual leader, I can honestly stand up and go, hey guys, we're going to make mistakes, but let's die knowing that we were trying to do something right for the next generation. I want something to be put on my tombstone. The last time we saw him, he was heading toward God. That's what I want in life. And I want to be remembered by that. The last thing it was that I did, that I was being known for, was getting involved and trying with all of my energy to make a difference. And men, today we can make a difference. And there's no doubt. So that's all I have in a nutshell, and I'll throw that back to you, Alan and Patrick. But thank you for the platform that you guys are doing today. You are to be applauded.
Thank you, Pastor. We appreciate it. So we have a hard stop at 9:30 Pacific Standard Time. So some of you, that's a different time for you, but in about 15 minutes. So we did want to open it up. If anyone had something you would want to contribute, the shorter version of what your thought is, a reaction. Maybe you've got a tool that you've done with your kids or seen it done, you want to share, or you just want to react in some way. We'd love to open that up for the last 15 minutes.
I just want to thank you. This is good stuff. It's real good stuff. So funny, I'm an English teacher too. And about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I saw some videos about 8-year-olds chopping down cocoa pods with machetes, and girls down the street being 12, 13, 14. And I realized I had to do something different too. I'm also a stepdad. I came into my daughter's life when she was 4, and she's 9 now. And so just being there and seeing the damage that even was caused by 4 years of absence, huge. But the tool, when I realized that, like, so I have this platform as an educator, how can I help these teenagers connect with it better? And so for the past, I think it's 7 years now, every winter I grow up my beard, and my students decide, there's 5 boxes, and they decide which facial hairstyle I'm going to shave my face into for finals week. And whichever box has the most money, that's the one that wins. And all of the money goes to the organization called Everyone Free in Pomona. And all throughout that time, whenever they talk about it, like we rephrase the conversation back to human trafficking. And you know, you got Douglas back there. It's during my slavery Frederick Douglass unit that we connect that to modern day human trafficking. And it's just been this ability to take these students and like show them, here's one of the darkest things that's happening in the world today, and we can fight it, but we can fight it with the joy of Christ. And it's been a powerful experience. But I love that you, like, yes, at the home, like, look in the mirror, like, who are we? That strong men raise strong men. I loved it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Eric, so much.
Pastor brought a thing up. Someone went to the Army, and so one thing I would encourage, and some stuff happened out of his control. Just a little phrase that sticks out to me: we have to figure out a way to learn how to control the controllables. Like, we can lose our mind on things we can't control, but there are a lot of things we can control. So let's control the controllables, and through God's strength and grace, and things are going to happen, but it's out of our purview. Control the controllables. Make a list of the things you can control and then lean into those.
And there's more power there than what we think.
Mm.
You know, understanding, hey, I can control this and even go out and make a difference in other people's lives. And we're working right now to get inside the military to start training people how to watch for this and protect them. So for me to even have that ability with my son that's still in the military is huge for me. And so we can control that and even go in and make a difference. It's awesome.
Like, I can't control the dirtbags that are making music that's degrading women, but I can control whether or not that music comes into my house and whether or not my child listens to it, at least somewhat. I mean, they might get out of my sight and dabble with it, but I can control whether or not we consume it. I can't control whether or not they make it. So let's fight the right fight. Let's fight a fight we can win.
There was so much. I was so moved by your story, Dr. Williams. I was leading Men Standing Against Trafficking. So we took over an intersection where, you know, trafficking was happening, and we'd get, you know, gathering of men, we'd hold up signs. It was a way to kind of introduce men to actually doing something connected to human trafficking. But one of the guys, I worked with him for years, and he finally one day took me aside and he told me that he had been repeatedly raped by his older brother when he was a little boy, and how that impacted all of his choices throughout his life. And that he became a Marine. He did everything, it was in response to trying to prove himself different from how he felt when he was being abused. And then within the military, same thing. He had one of his commanding officers got him up against the wall and tried to molest him again. And so there's this kind of repetition of messaging, that you're an object. And I'm so moved by you overcoming all that you went through, and that then now you set a model for your son, or other people who have experienced this kind of abuse, that they can see in you kind of a success in overcoming and turning that into something that you can do to, you can use now to help others. That's so powerful. And I think that's one of the things. I think we have so many boys who have been sexually molested who are unhealed. They're not confronting what happened to them, and they're carrying that into their relationships, into their marriages, and into their parenting. And we have to really create that safe space for men who experience abuse as children to be able to heal. So I applaud you. What you've done is so awesome.
Well, this kind of platform, and even with my dear friend Ken Henry, is so important because we need a safe place. You know, I'm single. I can't have a relationship because I've messed it up so many times because of me not dealing with this early in my life. And this is such an important platform. And Susan, I thank you for your ministry and allowing us to all get together and have this conversation.
I want to add one more piece to something that it just dawned on me, that when I talked about a good man raising good men and being the right kind of man, look in the mirror, the context I think was so you can protect your kids, which is good, have a great marriage, protect your home, that's good. But I want to make sure that we're also have our eyes above the horizon, because as I said earlier, the biggest part of this problem of exploitive culture is men. Now, we might not be directly participating in it, but it's on us to confront it. So yes, start at home, start with your kids, start with your wife, being a good, strong man. Human trafficking should be dead in its tracks. If we could get enough good, strong men to confront it, strip clubs should go out of business, because you're not going to let your friend go there. I'm going to the strip club. No, you're not. What do you mean? Because I'm not going to let you. Pornography should be gone. It shouldn't be, there should be no consumers. Why? Because you and me and us should be confronting the buyers. Make the buyers go away. Be a good, strong man in the community of men that you run with, and influence them to be good, strong men of the men that they're involved with. If we can get that to spread like a pandemic, if we can get it to spread and cross everywhere, then all this stuff will be dead in its tracks, because we're not going to allow it to happen. Take some ownership of your community, of your schools, of your neighborhood, of the world. Step into the fight at a grand scale. Start at home and then step into a grand scale. This is on us, and we have the power to end it. We know what the problem is. It's broken men. We have just a few more minutes if anyone else has something that they would like to add.
Yeah, I got a question. Do you guys have any tools about how we can convince our kids to make porn uncool?
There's probably a lot of things you could find. I would refer everyone here to Fight the New Drug. They're online. There's a website, and it's a non-religious, non-political organization that is giving all kinds of tools and what it does to your brain, how it rewires your brain, a lot of the physiological things. So it might not be exactly what you're asking, but at age appropriate, look at it yourself. If they're online, for sure, social media, but there's the website. They have videos you can watch that kind of talk about it all. And it's a great eye opener as to what porn is doing. And that there may be something in there that you could find that would be really helpful.
I would add too, we have one of the speakers that's coming to FatherCon this time. He's coming from North Carolina. He has an organization called The Third Talk, and it's all about how parents should talk to their kids about porn. He's really developed a way that parents can talk with that doesn't drive the kids away, but that allows them to kind of feel that they can come and talk about it. And then it's showing like kind of the end result, right? It's like it always looks good at first. It's like glittery and shiny and feels good, at first. But then it's a trajectory down, and very soon your life becomes out of your control. I think Fight the New Drug is awesome. They have a hotline number, and they have so many teenagers calling saying that now they can't get an erection with an actual person. Their brain has been so rewired around a screen that they can no longer have a physical relationship with a woman, which is very alarming if you're a 15, 16-year-old boy. But there are some great tools out there.
So you said a lot of great things tonight, and each step is each part is planting a seed. And one of the more critical things that you said was engage, right? So we know through a lot of things, even looking at crime, right? So we learned that 90% of those in jail are there because of a lack of a father figure. It's probably closer to like 99%. And the stats that you presented, they align with that. so a lot of great things about, you know, and one of the things that you said that really resonated was engage, right? Get involved. And, you know, making a step with that. When you were talking, when the guy asked about the porn, right? You know, some of the stats around porn is what you mentioned was, you know, nearly all of them are there involuntarily, right? So if you're looking at someone being raped and if you're telling the truth, that person is being raped, you know, how much is someone else going to engage knowing that that person is there involuntarily being raped, right? It's not cool, right? And you can tell your friends that, you know, that you're watching someone getting raped, and then how much further are they going to engage in something like that? Another stat around porn is it's close to 100% of those participants don't walk away clean, meaning they walk away with serious venereal diseases, diseases communicated by sex. It's near like 100% of those people. So no one walks away clean from that. So what you're watching is you know, telling the truth about what you're watching or what someone is watching. Really, it goes a long way, right? To disengaging that behavior or wanting something like that once you see the truth of it. But and then finally, and most importantly, thank you for having this conference. It was really good. Thank you for spending your time on a Saturday morning and speaking to us about it.
You know,
Thank you so much,
Jesus
Derek.
wanted to get his message out to the whole world before he died. And during his 3 years of ministry, he didn't pick 50,000 people to change the world. He picked 12. There's 11 on here today, and one ended up going bad anyway. There's 11 on here today. Together, we can make a difference.
That's right.
And this problem isn't too big for it to be eliminated. And it has to be powers in us sticking together and engaging. So Alan, that's the word I'm taking away from today.
Engage, Maverick. Yeah, just in closing, we've alluded to it. In my work in this field, it's indisputable. By far the biggest part of the problem is men. And that's actually good news, because if you know what a problem is, you now have the ability to create a solution. If something's going wrong with your body, you get an MRI or an X-ray, they know what's happening, they can fix it. Your car's running weird, the guy knows how to fix cars, can fix it. Your plumbing, there's a leak, the plumber comes. If you can isolate and define a problem, you're 50% there, because now you can have a great chance of creating a solution that's going to work. Well, this broken world, I saw a meme somewhere. I don't know if it's a joke or a meme or a study or what. It said 80% of all problems are caused by men. And I laughed. I thought, oh, and then I kind of did. I quit laughing. That's probably true. It might be a little low. Like, can you think of an important world issue that there's not a bunch of idiot knucklehead men behind it? I don't know if there is. So great. The problem with exploitation, in fact, trafficking, is by far men. They're feeding it. They're creating it. They're facilitating it. Okay, we're halfway there. Now we know what the solution is. The solution is good, strong men to step in that gap and confront those men with bad intentions. That's our goal. That's our mandate. Be a good, strong man who influences your home, spreads outward, and create and grow good, strong men who are going to step in and confront the next generation. We can see an end to it. I believe it.
Yeah.
You guys, thanks for joining us. It's just about 9:30 or 11:30, depending where you are. Susan, thank you. I know you're on mute and silent and everything. You're organizing this. Appreciate it. Us knucklehead men need some help organization sometimes. And it's been a pleasure to be with you guys. Patrick, I don't have any closing thought, but thanks for having us.
I want to shout out to James. James has been riding buses, it looks like. He's been all over the place, and he's been completely like, you know, taking this all in. And so I know you haven't been speaking, but I really want to appreciate you for being here and taking us through your morning. And each and every one of you, this is the beginning. This is where we really kind of really get fired up to go from here and change the world around us. So I'm so grateful to each and every one of you for being here. Thank you so much. And I hope the conversation continues and our actions. We do each and every one of us get engaged from this moment on in a new way, in a more powerful way. God bless you all.
Engage Maverick.
Engage Maverick.